We made it, everybody! We made it through the first month of the new year 2023, which means it's time for our first ever end of month roundup in the world of animation. The animation wrap up for January 2023, as it were. And unfortunately, we have a pretty heavy news topic to touch on first because co-creator of Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland, has gotten into some pretty deep trouble. And as far as I can tell, seeing, first of all, the charges brought against him, there are domestic assault charges, I believe they are, brought against Justin Roiland. He's going to court in, I believe, April. But on top of that, there are also DMs and tons of people stepping forward, showing their creepy, just disgusting interactions with Justin Roiland, and they're from all different sorts of places. I've seen a lot of people talking about how easy it is to fake Twitter DMs. I know that I have done some faking Twitter DMs for edits and whatnot, always in jest, always for jokes in videos. If you're faking stuff to trick people or mislead them, you are disgusting. That cannot be condoned. But I know about some of the generators and whatnot that you use, because a couple of years ago I was doing edits for my brother's channel, and we needed like something for a joke for a Twitter DM saying, like, I think I said Bethesda texted him, but I know about these things. I know how you go about faking these things. And for one thing, yeah, every single one could be fake, or the reputable people that we are getting these from. There are some people that have brought conversations and DMs forward that we know for a fact have worked at some point in the industry or have had contact with Justin Roiland in some capacity. The fact that those people are stepping forward and bringing this sort of thing to light, and we've heard other allegations in the past of just creepy sort of drunken behavior, as it was called at the time, it makes me think that this situation is, for one, very, very real, especially on top of the charges already being brought against him. And I can't say the exact term of how this makes Justin Roiland look, but to just say, without YouTube censoring the whole video, think To Catch a Predator. And that's the sort of stuff you're seeing in a lot of these DMs, and it is downright disgusting. So naturally, Adult Swim cut ties with Justin Roiland through a tweet, a message saying that Rick and Morty is going to carry on development and Justin Roiland's roles will be recast. This is something that I was honestly pretty happy to see, having looked at a lot of these DMs, having read about the charges being brought against him. For Adult Swim to act so quickly on this is great. They were not sidestepping it at all. They were not waiting and seeing. They were not putting the show above the people. In a way they did. They put the show above the person, I guess we can say. They put the show above Justin Roiland. And to see them sever ties with him so quickly, for one thing. For two, continue making the show, just recasting his roles. To me, that's a great look for Adult Swim, because once again, I feel like I'm pointing this out in every single video I make. To make animation, you need a big team of incredibly talented people. And to make a show like Rick and Morty, you're gonna need an even bigger team of even more talented people that know how to do all sorts of insane stuff. So for this show to get canceled right off the bat, and for these people to lose their jobs right off the bat because of the actions of one of the co-creators, that would have sucked. It would have made Justin Roiland look even worse, and I can say with full confidence he looks terrible right now. But Adult Swim was kind of able to put him in his place, kind of. This guy who has been at the very top of the world of animation for so long. He's been the top. He has so much power in the world of animation. For them to pluck him out, sever ties completely, and say his actions are not going to affect the rest of the team working on the show. We have confidence that they can put together a show without this dirtbag. We're just gonna let him go. For them to do that, it's great to see. I'm glad they acted so quickly, and I 100% at this point in time agree with the decision. If something comes out in the future that 100% exonerates Justin Roiland, because while I've seen a lot of evidence, once again, that makes me think this is pretty damn real, almost beyond the shadow of a doubt, there are people out there who are still actively defending him and saying, oh, well, this stuff could be faked. Oh, well, this lawyer came out and said that the charges will most likely be dropped or the case will be thrown out or whatever. Like, we have to give this more time. If that is the case, if something exonerates him in the future, if we find out everything we've seen from all of these different people is fake, then I will make a video taking back my stance. But as I stand right now, I think what he has done and was doing before this came to light is disgusting, and I'm glad that his ties have been severed. And hopefully it won't affect anyone else's careers. Clearly he's already affected a lot of people both inside and outside of the industry with his actions. So let's keep hopefully the ripples to a minimum for this disgusting dirtbag and move on from it and put him out of our minds. So that's all I have to say on the matter for right now. That's all the information I know of right now. I'm fairly certain he is disgusting, and I think it is the right decision to pull him out. Now we can move on to something a little bit lighter. I know that this month has been really, really tough for fans of animation, what with the cancellation of Inside Job and the release of a show that was a spin-off of Scooby-Doo that I will not name. I did a review of that show if you want to check it out, but it's not worth your time. It's terrible. It was a bad look for just the world of animation in general to put that steaming pile of garbage out. But positively, we are now getting to look back at the winners, the nominees, as it were, not winners, but the nominees for the Oscars this year for Best Animated Feature. And I've said in the past, when I was reviewing movies a lot, I believe in 2019 I saw every single Best Picture nominee, not Best Animated Feature, but Best Picture. I don't hold a lot of value in the Academy Awards. I don't think anyone really should. They're sort of meaningless awards at this point, and frankly, I feel like they've been that way for maybe 20 years or so. I feel like there's other sources you can go to find really, really great movies and recommendations. If you have a reviewer that you trust, or an independent website that you trust with an independent journalist, whatever it may be, I think that there are better consensuses, I guess you could say, for what the best in show was for a year. I don't think the Oscars is the end-all be-all, but the Oscars is the biggest show, so we're going to go over the nominees here and talk about one partial snub, a movie I have not seen. Now, real quick, the nominees are Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Turning Red, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, and The Sea Beast. Now, full disclosure, I am incredibly embarrassed to admit this, but I've only seen 1 2/2 of these movies. So I haven't seen any of these movies really, except for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. But by what I can tell by the reception of this, people are pretty happy with these nominees, apart from one movie getting snubbed, of course, which was The Bad Guys, a movie that was released that a lot of people really loved that I wanted to see and just never got around to seeing. Hopefully I can change that in the next week or so. We can go through all of these one by one, give little reviews on them in a big video right before the Oscars happen. If that's something you're interested in, let me know down in the comment section below. But all in all, people were pretty happy with this list of nominations. Even if Bad Guys got snubbed for an A24 animated film that no one has heard of course that one being Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, but there's one of those every year, so you know, we can let it slide. And granted, I haven't seen these other movies, so I'm not really in the position to judge. But some people were upset about the snub of The Bad Guys. I'd like to hear what you guys think of that in the comment section below. Because as someone who has only seen one of these movies, and it was the movie I was most hyped for, I'm just happy to see it nominated. That, of course, being Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. If I had to pick a winner, again, based off my biases, it would be that Pinocchio movie. But I've also heard tremendous things about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I've heard great things about The Sea Beast. I just need to finish it. And I'll definitely check out the others, too. I haven't heard bad things about Marcel the Shell or Turning Red. But I feel like for one movie that I was, like, blown away by this last year, it had to have been Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I gave it my best animated film of 2022. Yes, the two other films that did not get nominated, the Bob's Burgers movie, that's kind of understandable, but Mad God by Phil Tippett did not get nominated, which I'm kind of disappointed on, but also I completely get it. It's a pretty grotesque movie. It's not quite fit for something like the Oscars. I don't think it would do well there, even if it did get nominated. I would have nominated it, and that's why I'm a little shaky on the Oscars, because they do kind of like to have a more clean slate to things. They don't like it to get too gross or too gory, and Mad God is definitely gross and gory. Horror movies in general, I just don't think have done well in the at the Oscars in the past. So I understand it. I'm a little disappointed by it. I think we're good to leave that there. And overall, just to wrap up this whole month, I know it's been rough across the board for a lot of these things. And we talked about something really, really heavy today that definitely affected a lot of fans in the world of adult animation across the board. Justin Roiland worked on so many shows. He executive produced Koala Man also and did voices in that, which is a show that I really enjoyed that came out in January. So his disgusting fingerprints are on a lot of stuff right now, and I can understand a lot of disdain and frustration from fans of TV shows. On top of all of that too, Inside Job getting canceled over at Netflix was a big thumbs down. And of course, that's something we can touch on real quick too. We actually got kind of a response to the Inside Job cancellation. Not really a response, but sort of a response from the co-CEOs over at Netflix. They said concerning canceling shows, just in general really, we have never canceled a successful show. A lot of these shows were well intended, but talk to a very small audience on a very big budget. The key to it is you have to be able to talk to a small audience on a small budget and a large audience at a large budget. If you do that well, you can do that forever. Now, that is an answer, I guess, to the cancellation of Inside Job. I get that it would be very expensive to produce a show like that, of course. I'm still not 100% clear in terms of Netflix and just these streaming services in general with their practices. If you are spending a lot of money on a show and you're seeing constant downticks and stuff in analytics that are showing less and less viewers as it goes on, that to me, that makes a lot of sense, but we still haven't seen the analytics for something like Inside Job. And I would bet, hopefully, that it had an uptick in viewership. I feel like a lot of people were talking about the show, and after it got canceled, a lot of people were speaking out about it. But of course, I don't have the numbers right now, and this is a response that makes sense, I suppose. If Inside Job was in the books not successful, the question then needs to be asked, okay, what's the threshold for success at Netflix? What does it mean to have a large budget? What's the definition of that? Is that animated programs? Is that TV series that you're doing? What's kind of the line? What we're really missing from this statement is hard numbers. And that's something we're going to get in the future for sure. But I feel like without it, it just feels kind of empty, where they're like, we never canceled an unsuccessful show. And it's like, okay, but there's got to be some variables there to that, you know. There's got to be some stuff to back up that claim. If you said we never canceled any successful shows, like look at this show for instance, like a lot of people liked it, it had a pretty small audience, but the budget in, you know, proportion to that audience, it just wasn't worth the cost to us. If they had given an example like that, if they had pointed to Inside Job or Glow or any of these other shows that have been getting canceled, I feel like I'd be a little bit more comfortable with this statement. But it honestly just left me with a feeling of, oh well, you've never canceled a successful show. Okay, I get that, but what is your definition of successful? What's going on with these budgets? What's the viewership you're looking for? Give the audiences and the people that are interested, like me and like you, give them a little bit more to go on and to read into so that we can better predict this sort of thing in the future. Because if Inside Job was tremendously unsuccessful, if it was terrible, well then I had no idea. Absolutely no clue. It seemed to be doing very, very well. There seemed to be a lot of buzz about it. So I need some hard numbers. That's where I'll leave this one for right now. It still is baffling to me that 2 seasons in, you can make that decision for the long-term investment after renewing a show, also deciding to cancel it. I get the economy's in a bit of a recession right now, but goodness me, that does not seem like good business practices to cancel a show after it was renewed. Leaving that there, pretty rough month here in January. Best show of the month, I guess, would be Koala Man, just by default, because it was going up against the Scooby-Doo spinoff that we're not going to name. So there you go. I guess that's the show. Thank you all very much for watching. My apologies for not having better news for you. Hopefully February will be better. I've got my fingers crossed. There's some interesting stuff coming down the pipeline, so get hyped up for that, I guess. Yeah. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.